Special thanks to TonyTheDuff for helping me record this video. The link to his socials are in the description below. Here are 3 secrets that you didn't know about for every killer in Dead by Daylight. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, go drop a like and subscribe down below. Trapper. If you equip the Padded Jaws add-on, the traps are given different sound effects. The Trapper makes a grunting sound effect when he picks up the maximum number of traps that he can carry. In Dead by Daylight's beta, Trapper was the only killer who was available to play. Wraith. The reason his breathing sounds so distorted is because in his lore, his throat was slit by his boss. Wraith's weapon is actually the skull and spine of his boss that he had taken out of his body when he killed him. Wraith's nickname in the game files is Bob, Hillbilly. His add-on called Mother's Helpers is actually just his mother's caffeine pills. Hillbilly was originally supposed to be Leatherface, but at this point in DBD's development, obtaining a license was obviously not an option. Bumping into an object with your chainsaw has the exact same cooldown as hitting somebody with your chainsaw or missing somebody with your chainsaw. Nurse. The Nurse was the first ever character to be added as DLC to Dead by Daylight. There are glowing orbs when you're charging your blink that represent how many blinks you have remaining. The reason the Nurse screams every time she blinks is because blinking is very painful for her. The sigh she lets out after blinking when she goes into a fatigue state is actually a sign of relief because the pain is over. Huntress. Huntress's lullaby is a real-life Russian lullaby called Bayushki Bayu, if that's how you pronounce it. As the game progresses, Huntress becomes more and more bloodthirsty. She gradually begins humming her lullaby at a lower pitch and starts to laugh while she's humming. Despite the Huntress wearing the mask of a rabbit, her codename in the game files is Bear. Do you think that this means that her original design may have had a bear mask instead? Michael Myers. Myers was the first killer to have a unique terror radius and chase music. There's a common misconception that if Myers has his left hand open rather than in a closed fist, that means he has the Judith's Tombstone add-on that allows him to instantly mori someone if he gets close enough. However, this is not true. The open hand just means that he has not reached his fastest speed. The misconception isn't technically wrong though, because Judith's Tombstone reduces his movement speed while he's in tier 3, causing his fist to be open. Myers was the first killer to introduce the obsession mechanic to Dead by Daylight. Bonus secret. Controller players technically have a very tiny advantage when using this killer. Since you can move your joystick very slightly to make the killer move slower, you can technically move at a slower speed in tier 3, manually causing his fist to remain open, even if you don't have Judith's Tombstone. Hag. The Hag was the first character to ever have a mori take place in third person rather than first person. Whenever the Hag hits someone, she actually lifts her hand up to drink the survivor's blood. This is because she is a cannibal in her lore. The Hag was the very first character to introduce hex perks into this game. Doctor. The Doctor was originally planned to be either Chinese or Korean according to the DBD wiki, since some file names reveal that his original name was Mu Yi rather than Herman Carter, which roughly translates to without justice or righteousness. However, his name was changed to Herman Carter and was also changed to an African American. The madness levels don't just increase at random amounts. If you're shocked by a static blast, your madness increases by a whole level. If you're shocked by static shock, your madness only increases by half a level. Although the Doctor's static blast is tied to the size of your terror radius, it still works even if you are undetectable or if the survivors are oblivious. Cannibal. Since Leatherface did not release with his own map, all promotional material takes place on Hillbilly's map, Coldwind Farm. When Bubba was originally released, it was clear that his chapter was rushed since most of his add-ons were the exact same thing as Hillbilly's add-ons. You used to be able to acquire 4 additional cosmetics for Bubba's mask, each one based on the 4 original survivors. You obtained Leader Face after sacrificing a Dwight 25 times, Athlete Face after sacrificing a Meg 25 times, Smart Face after sacrificing a Claudette 25 times, and Survivor Face after sacrificing a Jake 25 times. However, these were removed as of January 7th, 2022 because racist people were using Claudette's face to target and harass black individuals. Nightmare. Freddy's Mori is a movie reference to when he kills Jesse in the film Nightmare on Elm Street. Waking yourself up with an alarm clock gives you total immunity from falling asleep for 30 seconds. seconds. This includes being put into the dream world after being hit. Everyone knows that an awake survivor can wake up an asleep survivor, but what people don't know is that each time you wake the same person up, it'll take twice as long. Pig. This is what Pig looks like without her mask. Survivors can escape even with an active head trap on as long as they go through the hatch. The pig literally moves slower while crouching than the nurse does while walking. This is why it's almost never worth it to use her stealth. Clown. The clown actually has two different Mori animations. On female survivors, he cuts off their right index finger, and on male survivors, he cuts off their left pinky finger. The little thing in the middle of your screen whenever you run through the clown's gas is not a bug, but rather an intentional design decision so people with motion sickness can have a specific stationary point to look at. You can see the ring of fingers that the clown takes from his victims on his waist. Bonus secret. The clown's map is Father Campbell's Chapel, which used to be home to Maurice, the three-eyed horse, but most people don't know the reason Maurice has three eyes. The horse became disfigured, burnt, and blinded by the transition from the real world to the entity's realm, so the entity felt bad and granted it a third eye to compensate for its blindness. Apparently the entity has empathy after all. Spirit. The spirit is one of the few killers to actually show any facial expressions. You can blind a spirit while she's phasing to force her out of phase walking. You can also shine your light on the husk that spirit leaves behind while phasing to get rid of it, but it won't affect the spirit themselves. This was an intentional design decision because you used to not be able to hear when the spirit was phasing while in chase, so the survivors could use this to determine whether or not she was in her phase or faking it. The Legion. Some masks on some cosmetics make the Legion's voice sound more metallic. All the mixtape add-ons change the chase music of the Legion. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there are a total of 16 different variations of the chase music. Legion is the only killer to have two sets of prestige cosmetics, one for Frank and one for Julie. Plague. Plague was the first killer to speak an actual language in the game, albeit a dead language. Plague was the first killer to willingly sacrifice herself to the entity in an attempt to save her people from a plague. This is a very gross secret, but you can hear Plague swallow her vomit back down when she manually cancels her power. Ghostface. When the Ghostface chapter was leaked, his Mori animation showed him using a mobile phone rather than the camera we have today. Ghostface's terror radius doesn't instantly vanish when you cloak, but instead decreases to 0 at a rate of 10 meters per second, so make sure you cloak a few seconds earlier than you normally would if you're trying to sneak up on a survivor. Ghostface was the first killer to have a unique running animation while in chase. Demogorgon. All 4 survivors can seal the same portal. This allows you to seal it in twice the speed. The Demogorgon is the first killer to come to Dead by Daylight that's not human. The Demogorgon's body comes out of a portal before the killer itself is physically at the portal. This is an intentional design so that survivors have enough reaction time to run away before the killer can physically see them. Oni. The Oni has an additional Mori on the mobile version of Dead by Daylight that looks like this. Oni is the spirit's great-great-great-great-great-grandfather and was actually teased on the spirit's map Yamoka Estate before being released. During a demon strike, the maximum attack turn angle is 90 degrees, so you can use tight corners that are more obtuse than 90 degrees to make it impossible for the Oni to hit you. Bonus secret. Oni passively fills up his power at a rate of 0.2 charges per second, which means it takes about 8.3 minutes to fully obtain his power passively. However, it's technically impossible to obtain his power passively because it'll stop at 98% full. Deathslinger. You can hear a high-pitched sound whenever the Deathslinger is aiming at you. The Deathslinger has a slight twitch in his left eye and a slight limp due to his leg brace. The shot from Deathslinger's gun is so loud that it spooks any crows nearby. Executioner. The Executioner is the tallest and sexiest killer in the game according to the DBD wiki. Pyramid Head has an unused model of a tongue in the game files. It's very long and very gross. He's also the killer with the most amount of ways to kill a survivor. Sacrificing them to the entity, performing a Mori on a survivor, letting a survivor bleed out, the entity killing a survivor during an endgame collapse, killed while inside a cage of atonement, and performing the final judgment on a survivor. Blight. There used to be offerings in the game called bouquets that changed the brightness of the map. These were discontinued, but Blight's Rose Tonic add-on references this offering because it's a mixture made by the flowers of the New Moon Bouquet, which was the iridescent version of this offering. The Blight normally vaults a window by leaning one hand on it and jumping over it, but if the window leads to a drop down, he will actually put both feet on the window and leap down. Blight's add-on called Plague Bile is literally a sample of Plague's bile that he had mixed with chemicals. The twins. You can stun the twins out of Victor by slamming the pallet down if her body is close enough. Charlotte was originally supposed to be pregnant, but this idea was changed for obvious reasons. No killer or survivor perks work on Victor. This includes but is not limited to Spine Chill, Premonition, and Barbecue and Chili. Trickster. Whenever Trickster drops someone, he almost looks disgusted. Trickster laughs when someone disconnects from the game. This may just be a coincidence, but if not, that would be hilarious. Just like the Huntress, the Trickster also has a lullaby that plays at 40 meters despite having a terror radius of 24 meters. Bonus secret. You can turn on subtitles in the in-game settings to see the translated voice lines whenever the Trickster speaks. Nemesis. Nemesis's zombies react to the killer perk Discordance, and they also react to Diversion, the Pebble perk. Whenever Nemesis uses a Mori on a STARS member or pulls a STARS member out of a locker, he will actually speak. Nemesis is the first killer to ever carry a survivor under their arm rather than on their shoulder. Cenobite. You can prevent a pinhead from teleporting by stunning him. If a survivor escapes with the box in hand, it can no longer spawn for the rest of the trial. After picking up the Lament configuration, it is impossible to drop it without solving it. Artist. You can burn crows off of your teammates if you use a flashlight or a flashbang. The Artist was originally supposed to collect crows that spawn around the map to use her power, but this was scrapped because it relied too heavily on RNG. That's ironic, isn't it? The Artist has 3 orbs on her hand that shows you the number of crows you have left. Onryo. Onryo's TVs will only be on if a survivor is nearby. Otherwise, the TV will display static. Just like Huntress, Onryo has a lullaby that plays when she's in stealth mode. The Onryo never touches the survivors throughout the entire trial, even when she's carrying and hooking a survivor. Dredge. The Dredge has a unique animation when you are in chase. In the lobby, you can occasionally see a horse head fall out of the Dredge's body. This is actually the 3-eyed horse on Father Campbell's chapel that disappeared when the Dredge was released, implying that the Dredge killed the horse. The Dredge's mechanics will always prioritize teleporting to a locked locker, so as a survivor, if you see 2 lockers right next to each other, only lock one of them and save the other one for later. Mastermind. If you throw a survivor into another survivor, both survivors will become injured. However, if the other survivor is already injured, it'll not down them, but it'll put them into the deep wound state. The cooldown for your ability is reduced by half a second for every survivor that is fully infected. The reason Wesker would have times where his ability wouldn't do anything, even if you were clicking it, is because it'll not initiate unless there's at least 1 meter of open space in front of you. If you guys made it through the entire video, go drop a like and leave an instrument emoji in the comments below.